Hello again. Welcome to Southeastern 16. We are here to discuss the Texas Longhorns for the 2024 college football season. Texas, of course, made the playoff last year, a prohibitive favorite to make it again, and the Longhorns making their entrance into the SEC in dramatic fashion. Chase, can't wait to unpack Texas's roster and season ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, playoff team last year, a lot of expectations for them to get back there this year. And I think the biggest critic for Texas is Steve Sarkisian. He sees that this team can get back there. And so we'll break down the Texas Longhorns. But first, let's tell you about Bet Online. They are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of the over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today to get on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. That is promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. Bet Online, the game starts here.
Chase, let's start with the Texas offense. What stands out to you?
You know, this is an offense last year that's a really good offense. I mean, 36 points per game, close to it. Quinn Ewers was a household name last year. They had great receivers last year. Quinn Ewers is back, but they're having to replace a lot as well. And so I like where they sit, though. I like where this offense is at. They had, 3,479 yards Quinn Ewers did last year, 69% completion rate, 22 touchdowns. Those are pretty good numbers. And he's back again this year. He was banged up back in 2022, but he looked really good last year. And I think he's just getting better. I really do. And so I like where Quinn Ewers is at. And boy, I really like their offensive line. 4 starters back. I mean, that's when you have experience up front and a quarterback like Quinn Ewers, and you can protect him, give him time to throw it to these new receivers. I like the way that looks for Texas.
Yeah, that offensive line. Kelvin Banks Jr. was a second-team All-American a year ago, returns at left tackle. Hayden Connor, left guard, 27 career starts, preseason All-SEC candidate. Jake Majors, 41 career starts at center, preseason All-SEC candidate. They got DJ Campbell back at right guard, who started 14 times. When you've got star power and you've got experience, and particularly at that center spot in left tackle, I really love the starting point for Texas there.
What really stands out to me is you just said Jake Majors, 41 starts. Your center is, like you just said, that's a crucial position. That's the position that gets the ball to the quarterback to make anything on the field happen. And you've got a guy that started 41 games, tons of experience up front. That's amazing. And I this has to be the most veteran offensive line that I've seen in the SEC this year, and I think that will be most notable. I think the left side is a little stronger than the right side is as far as experience goes, but that's something that will get better. They'll work on that. But I'm really impressed with the offensive line with the big boys up front. They are big guys, and this is an SEC built team. This is an SEC built offensive line, and they're coming in good shape to the conference.
Yeah, if there's a relative concern on the offensive line, it's probably at right tackle. I've got it slotted Cameron Williams to start. He played 9 times a year ago, started once. Brandon Baker, true freshman, backing him up. But, I mean, if we look across any offensive line, 95% of them don't have the experience and the talent Texas has got. And it's the number's probably more than that. But, I mean, we're picking nits here. Skill positions, they're in good shape too. University of Alabama contributed heavily to this roster. Amari Niblack, the tight end transfer, who I think is going to be one of the better ones in the league. Isaiah Bond from Alabama also. And then you got C.J. Baxter, a preseason potential All-SEC guy. So, and Silas Bolden, not a guy that maybe gets talked about a lot. 746 yards receiving at Oregon State a year ago too, and some backups who've gotten some experience too.
Yeah, we mentioned they lost some wide receivers last year, and so they had to go out and get some replacements. And I thought getting Isaiah Bond from Alabama was huge. Everybody remembers him on the 4th and 31, the Iron Bowl. That's who caught the pass in the corner of the end zone for Alabama to beat Auburn. He's got great hands and knows Steve Sarkisian and wanted to go play for Texas. And so that was a big pickup to go along with the other guys. And you mentioned Silas Bolden too. I really like him. I think he's going to be a big contributor. The Oregon State transfer to Texas. I really like him. They're so deep at wide receiver. As we were looking at the roster, they've got so many guys, a couple of high school guys that I think will get some touches this year in Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingston. But I just think they're so deep. And that is, I think, going to be a cause of concern for a lot of teams when they're watching Texas on film this year, getting ready to play them. Outstanding quarterback and a deep wide receiver room with the offensive line that they have. I mean, that's a good combination. Then you bring in running backs as well. I love C.J. Baxter. You got Jaden Blue right behind him as well, who is really good as well. And so I love the skill positions for this team. I really do. And Matthew Golden, another transfer from Houston, I think could be dangerous and catching the ball for Texas this year. And those are just the transfers. You got DeAndre Moore, who's back with the Longhorns this year. And then you mentioned Amari Niblack at tight end, the addition from Alabama. There's so many guys. You're going to see so many names, I feel like, when you're watching the Longhorns this year on offense, just because Quinn Ewers is a capable quarterback of putting it in these guys' hands, like no matter who it is. And I think the run game needs to be established early because they do have the quarterback who can throw it well, and Quinn Ewers can move himself. Let's establish the run game with a Baxter and a Blue and get that going as well to go along with this deep receiver room.
If I've got one nit to pick, they're experienced receivers. It's not the tallest group around. Most of those guys fall on that 5'11" to 6 foot range. Bolden is 5'8". Wingo is going to be a little bigger. Some of those freshmen that you mentioned, but they've also got Niblack, who's 6'4", Gunnar Helmet 6'5". So if it ends up being a jump ball game at the goal line, it's not like they don't have people who can get it done.
Right. That's an interesting thing to point out. Yeah, they're not the biggest, tallest receivers. They do have some speed on them though. Yeah. And they can jump up and make plays. But yeah, they're not the tallest receivers. Silas Bolden being 5'8". Thought that's interesting. But yeah, you got Amari Niblack and Gunnar Helm, like you mentioned, 6'4", 6'5", respectively. I really like the depth of wide receiver for Texas, and it's a good group that he's assembled to replace what he was missing from last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, both those tight ends showed, just in terms of yards per catch, a little bit of explosiveness. 13.7 yards a catch for Helm, 16.4 for Niblack, who I really like. So, again, some tight ends who can catch the ball and get you some yardage too. But the defense, also pretty good unit. I've counted about 6 guys who are getting some preseason All-SEC love of some sort. It may not be All-American type attention that we've seen on some other defenses, but you get experience. They added a couple of guys in the defensive backfield who may start for them, and Javion Cole from San Jose State, Andrew Mukuba from Clemson, and then they got a couple of plug-in guys on the defensive line for Arizona too, to go with what was already, I think, a pretty good group, especially with the addition of Trey Moore from UTSA.
Yeah, and last year they were so good at stopping the run, and teams were not able to run on Texas. Now, that was a different story, and we'll talk about the pass defense in a minute. But this defensive front was really good, and they denied the run, I feel like, all season long. And, yeah, I'm really impressed with these 2 guys from Arizona that they've added, and I think they will get quality reps. Trey Moore as well from UTSA. I thought he was a great addition as well. He's played a lot of football games and has made a lot happen. But yeah, I really like this defensive front. And you think of Texas as kind of an offensive team because they have a very offensive-minded head coach. But I think what they've done on defense is really good to correct some of the problems they had from last year defensively. Now, were they a good defense? Yes. They had their issues, though, especially in the pass game. But I really like what they've done. I really like the experience they have coming back. They've added some transfers in there, of course, but they do have a good bit of guys coming back that I think will surely help the Longhorns. But, yeah, the defensive front, Ethan Burke, love him, Alfred Collins, those are two guys you're going to want to remember their names this year because you're going to hear them a lot when it comes to the defense for Texas and making tackles.
Well, in addition to the transfers, Malik Muhammad is an all-conference caliber corner potentially for them. The other corner is Cole, who, again, transferred in from San Jose State, had 3 picks a year ago. Derek Williams is going to man one of the safety spots. I don't know how many games he started, but he played a lot for them a year ago. Mukuba was a full-time starter, I think, at Clemson. You got a lot of depth there. You got a bunch of guys. You look down the sheet, a lot of these guys played 12 to 14 games in backup roles. Some of that may have been special teams, but and then at linebacker, Anthony Hill, all-conference candidate. Gbenda, Barron, guys that played a lot of ball for Texas a year ago. I feel like they got a lot of guys on the back seven with experience already. And then you add those 2 kids in the portal at defensive back, and I think that really shored up what Steve Sarkisian was doing here.
Yeah, and there had to be changes made. I mean, you go back to, and yes, Washington, a great team, played the national championship. Michael Penix, fantastic quarterback. But they were able to make plays on Texas in that semifinal game, Sugar Bowl game, that they wouldn't have been able to do on a lot of teams. Texas just struggled with pass defense. And so I think that game really exposed that for Texas, that, hey, this is why we were not in the national championship. Let's go out and fix it. Let's add some pieces to this puzzle that can change that for us. And I think they did a good job of that. I really like the Clemson transfer, Andrew Mukuba. He's played a lot of football games. 31. He started 31 games at Clemson. He brings a lot of experience, I feel like, back there at free safety. To go along with Derek Williams, who's back there at strong safety. So I think that's a very good position for those guys to be at. And yeah, you add the 2 corners, or Javian Cole from San Jose State, to go along with Malik Muhammad, who we know is a good corner. To have those 2 guys in the corner, I think those are really strong pieces. And so I think the defense is shaping up to be much, much better than it was last year. And they had to do something. And I also see a lot of depth. You know, we talked about wide receiver depth. I see a lot of good depth on defense as well in some of these positions. There's going to be injuries. You play a lot of football, practice all week, and then a game on Saturday. There's going to be some injuries, but I think they have good depth in a lot of these positions to keep them consistent on defense this year.
Yeah, special teams will be a little bit of a question. I think they're breaking in new return guys. Michael Kern, their punter, is a high school kid, so we'll see how that goes. Not sure how much Texas will actually be punting. But and when they, can't get a touchdown, they got Bert Auburn, one of the better field goal kickers in the league, 29 of 35 a year ago, perfect on point after. So, again, you look at this roster, just not a lot of just huge holes anywhere you look.
And that's where you want to be when you join the SEC. We know what Texas is capable of. They showed that last year. That's the college football playoff, and really a play or 2 away from playing in a national championship game last year. And so, yeah, while they've had to replace a lot of guys, it's very quality guys that they're going to put on the field this year. I really like their roster. Bert Auburn, a guy who's been, he has come in clutch for Texas so many times and over the last couple of years. And so I know they're glad to have him back. And he had a 54-yard field goal last year. He set the Big 12 record with 19 consecutive field goal attempts made. I mean, just great numbers there from your kicker. And so this is and Chris, we've talked a lot about Texas. I mean, this is a year for them where they could make a huge statement. You're coming into the SEC, where a lot of SEC fans really don't want you. They don't want you to be successful. You're coming into, Georgia and Alabama's territory. And this team has a good chance of being in the SEC championship game or even winning the SEC, representing the SEC in the college football playoff. The ceiling is so high for this Texas team, which I think works out good in their favor with it being the first year in the SEC.
Yeah, I think the schedule also in a lot of ways works out in their favor. I'm looking at this model we put together where we try to look ahead and say, how many points is the team going to be an underdog or be a favorite? And in this, I see Texas only being an underdog once. That's to Georgia by about a field goal. We'll see what that looks like closer to time. That game is in Austin. 9 times by my math, the Longhorns are going to be double-digit favorites. The Michigan game should be around a field goal, I think. That'll be in the big house. That'll be a tough one. That they get that one. They feel great about their season at that point. And other than that, just not a lot of games where on paper Oklahoma will be one. I circle that one, October 12th. That's going to be one on a neutral site that'll be a war as it always is. But the computers are showing this is a team that's going to win a lot of games and probably a lot of games by a lot of margin. In fact, the thing I've got in front of me shows them outscoring their opponents in the regular season by 230-something points. That's a lot in this day and age of the SEC.
It really is. And I think one important thing to note about this team is the fact that there's so many new skill guys, especially at receiver. I think it's going to be interesting to see how quick that Quinn Ewers can get on the same page as these guys. That's always a concern when you've got a load of new receivers coming in. We saw last year Quinn Ewers and those receivers work so well together. Is there going to be a period where it takes time for these guys to gel? We'll see here in about a month when they start playing football. But right now, I mean, that could be a concern. But overall, this team, they're set up to be a really good team to make a deep run in the college football playoff. And I think that this roster is built for that. And I think this coaching staff is built for that. Steve Sarkisian is in a great spot here. And he has been quoted as saying, and he's said in press conferences and in SEC media days, their goal here is not to just be the coaching staff at Texas. No, their goal is to win championships. And I think he's set up the roster and able to do that. And being in the SEC is going to help him because he's going to have a SEC schedule where he's going to be playing really good teams. Would you ever thought you would have seen Texas and Georgia as a conference game? That could be a playoff game, but that's a conference game in the middle of the season. That's what we're dealing with now with Texas, and I think they're ready for that. They're built again. They are built for success, and they are built for the SEC.
Yeah, can't wait to see it. First interesting game will be that game in the Big House on September the 7th. That one will be fascinating to watch. We'll be here to cover the whole season for the Longhorns, along with the rest of the SEC. We also cover basketball and baseball year-round, like literally year-round. We have a weekly baseball show. We have a weekly basketball show. In case you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps our analytics. If you're looking for a place to reach SEC fans as a business owner, Caroline.Smith at southeastern14.com. Yes, we know that's 14. We are 16 now, thanks to Texas and Oklahoma, but that email will get there. We think we can do a really good job at reaching the audience you're looking to reach. All right, for Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.